Hello our viewers and welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, then don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up by tapping on the like button, and be part of the commenters squad by sharing your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now today we will be exploring the reasons why some people voted for Donald Trump. I bet by now we've all heard the phrase election day is not Valentine's Day. Well, that's a phrase that a brother uses in this video as he explains the reason why he voted for Donald Trump. And for many, their vote wasn't about loving the candidate, but about choosing the one who aligns with their values and beliefs. Hence, the phrase election day is not Valentine's Day, because you don't get to vote for someone because you love them. Now, in this video, I will be sharing some interesting insights from voters who chose Trump. Despite not being his biggest fans, one voter, for instance, mentioned that Trump's acknowledgement of Jesus Christ as the king was a major factor in their decision for them. It wasn't about values and morals. Now, I'll be showing you more videos from different people who have shared their reasons for voting for Trump. Some might be surprising, while others might resonate with some of you. So stick around and make sure to watch this video until the very end, because you will be surprised at some of the reasons that people are giving in this video actually. So with that said, let's take a look at these videos. I will be right back, and when I do, I share more reasons why people say they voted for Donald Trump.
We just voted. Who we vote for?
Trump.
I personally don't like Trump. I'm not a fan of him.
But we voted for him.
We voted for him. And here's why. I heard someone say the other day that election day is not Valentine's Day. You're not voting for someone if you like them personally, if you like all the decisions they made. But we decided to vote for the one candidate that acknowledges our king. Right? When you hear somebody say Christ is king at a meeting and one candidate said wrong meeting, red flags to
Very
me.
clear.
And so Trump is not a perfect person. I actually personally don't even care for him, but I do know that he acknowledges Jesus Christ, and because of that, our values and our morals, that's what matters to us. The economy is going to always be jacked up.
Yep.
Housing is going to always be jacked up. What's going on in this crime is
all
always
the
going to be jacked
things.
up. But more importantly, I wanted to stand with someone that acknowledges that Jesus is king and we believe in life. So hope you guys vote. Let's
Go out and vote today. Your lines are going to get long, so go the earlier the better.
Yep.
But your vote matters, and we have to do what God's called us to do, and that is to make an impact in our world and be a light in this world. Go vote.
Let us make America godly again.
Ooh.
That's good.
I am voting Republican as a woman and as a libertarian. So I chose to vote for my first time this year. I voted for Trump, and I'd like to just have a quick discussion about why. Because it seems like every time I say that, people who are voting for Kamala Harris come after me and tell me that I'm taking away women's rights, when in reality, all of that is just rage bait. I personally, I believe that women should have the choice. I do not believe that a man should have authority over a woman's body, but I also see the situation for what it is. And now that Roe v. Wade is overturned, it is left to the state governments. So there's nothing on a federal level that can be done anymore. It's all up to the state. It has to go through Congress. So for everybody saying that if voting right is going to take away people's rights, that's not so. That's an illusion. That's rage bait. That's not even true. I actually feel like I have the authority to speak on this personally because I was 19 years old. It's something that I personally am extremely ashamed of. I regret it. It's the biggest regret of my life. And I was heavily medicated at the time that I made that decision. I was encouraged by the hospital to get an abortion. People forget that Planned Parenthood is a business. It wasn't free. It still costed hundreds of dollars. And I am deeply, deeply disturbed that this topic, this sensitive topic, is being used as a political pawn and rage bait. And I want nothing to do with that. So I'm not voting for her because that's disgusting to me. And the fact that that's the only issue that they have addressed, basically. And then everything else is all just false promises. And I voted for Trump. RFK Jr. was a really big part of my decision. I really love what he's done with his career. I don't think that he's a savior or a perfect human being. I don't think anybody is. But I think he's done incredible, incredible work in terms of health and children. He really, truly cares. And these are changes that we can actually make, and these are changes that will help generations to come, that will help our generation. It's about our health. It's about making America healthy again. I am proud to be on this side of history, and I'm proud to be here, able to vote, able to speak my mind freely, because we have freedom of speech. I have the right to my opinion. So for anyone who's going to, come at me, it's really a character flaw within yourself.
All right, this is why I'm voting for Trump. I see a lot of people have been more open about who they're voting for recently, and that inspires me to come out and talk about it. So what I first want to start with is that I'm not even 18.
Here are 3 reasons why I think Trump just won this election. Number 1 is the platform the Democrats ran on. So people will always value their safety, security, and well-being economically over women's bodily autonomy. So people perceived that Donald Trump was going to be better for the economy, and that's how they voted. People felt like they had to choose between being able to afford rent and groceries or voting rights, and they chose. Number 2 is that the conservative voice has been stifled on social media and the media in general due to cancel culture. So we underestimated the amount of people who do have conservative values because we have canceled them and led them to basically not really express themselves on the internet. So we overestimated the amount of people that have more progressive values. Number 3 is that Gen Z is not as progressive as you think they are. If you've ever gone to a bar and hung out with 21-year-olds, especially the men, they're not that progressive.
I am so relieved to say that Donald J. Trump is going to be the 47th president of the United States. The red wave that we were expecting in 2020 is the one that we received this time. All the swing states, the popular vote, Senate majority, almost House majority. This just shows that no amount of identity politics, no amount of celebrity influence or media manipulation could stand against the power of truth, because people were desperate. America was sick of the careless leadership, radical agendas, mass illegal immigration, skyrocketing inflation, constant hate and division. I'm not surprised that the campaign that only ran on and hating Trump, with a sprinkle of celebrity endorsements, lost. Never mind the dismissal of Jesus as the cherry on top. While the left was targeting millions of Americans with a political campaign that was specifically designed to instill fear, they forgot and neglected the other millions of Americans that love this country and love their families more than they hated Trump, because they just can't fathom loving anybody more than themselves. I need to stress this to you. Not a single right is going to be taken from you. He didn't take any away when he was president the first 4 years either. All Americans are about to thrive. Lower interest rates, healthier foods, secure nation with a secure border. Your right, your children, was never constitutional, and in some states is not going away. So please, let's just control the hysterics, and please just open your eyes to see the prosperity that this nation is about to experience.
Here are the reasons why I voted for Donald Trump. The whole premise of this TikTok page, Financial Literacy for Men, is based on the premise that whoever you are, you're able to create wealth in an authentic way. And I struggled with whether or not I wanted to create this video, because pretty much everyone who is close to me in my everyday life votes liberally, and you may resonate with the experience of, if you grew up as a minority, if you're black, there's like this assumption that you vote Democrat. First of all, I am naturally a rebellious person, so when you tell me that I should be doing this because of XYZ, my immediate response is to be like, no. But the reason I voted for Trump has nothing to do with that rebellious nature. I just bring that up because if someone is saying that you need to think a certain way because of the color of your skin or because of your sexual orientation, that's something that you have to question. The first reason I voted for Donald Trump is because of authenticity. And say what you will, people have always, at least for the last, whenever he first took office, they kept talking about how much he's a racist. Kamala Harris at some point called him a fascist. And I get that he has character flaws, and he's definitely not the poster child for anything like great and moral or whatever. But at the very least, he shows up exactly who he is. He's not trying to fit a mold, right? And if someone is ultimately racist, and I never personally concluded that he is a racist, but if whatever he is, at least he owns it. There's a groundedness in that I resonate with, that I find relatable. If you're going to be a racist, at least just be like open with it, right? And again, I don't think he is a racist. Like, I don't just buy into the idea that people are what people say that someone is. Like, I never got that vibe from him, so I don't make those types of conclusions, right? But I've always just gotten the sense that he's going to show up and he's going to say exactly how he feels, and I can trust that. The second reason is economic vision. The fact of the matter is there's inflation. The economy is going through a big shift. He was the candidate that actually offered some sort of plan right out of the gate. And again, stemming from the authenticity part, not only is he authentic, but he is a billionaire. He's a businessman. Like, so he knows these things. Out of the two, he would be the candidate that I would look at to say, okay, this is the person who has the receipts to be able to say, hey, I understand the economy and I can put forth a vision. I have this experience that can help lead us out of it, help advance our economic situation as a country in some sort of way. Now, granted, I will never be looking to anybody as the savior, right? So like, I didn't wake up this morning like so excited about the fact that he won, and I would still be feeling just as good about the future regardless of who won, right? So it could have been Kamala, it could have been Jill Stein. I didn't know that she was on the ticket until I voted yesterday, and that's just the baseline, right? So like, I know that regardless of what happens as far as who's the president, the only person that really is going to move the needle significantly as far as whether I become financially successful and whether the economics in my world are actually moving, it's me. It's not up to a government. It's not up to anybody else. That brings me to the third reason, which is empowerment of individual freedom. And I think this is less of a Donald Trump and maybe more of a conservative viewpoint. The American foundational principles of the country are based on individual freedom. People are flocking to America for a reason. You can come here and you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you can make something of yourself. It might not be easy and you will have to really align your energy. And that's the reason why I create this page, this TikTok, this social media, to help and guide people in that journey. But you get to have that journey here in America. And so I will always have to default, just based on my values, to the party that's going to put it in the hands of the people to create positive economic outcomes or any sort of outcomes. If I really zoom out, like, I didn't incarnate into planet Earth to be given a handout. Like, I could have just stayed non-physical. And the last reason has to do with just self-reliance on personal protection and personal rights. The other thing that seems to be circulating in minority communities, specifically the LGBT, is that, especially with the recent I don't be knowing politics. Like, I am struggling with all of the words of this. Since they were willing to roll back the laws, they could turn around and do the same thing with marriage. And once again, I've always just had this, I don't know if I want to call it a rebellious nature, but I just have always had this intuitive awareness of my access to creation energy. And that's not something that can be handed to me as a right. It is something that just already is. It always has been. And even when I was younger and felt like there were groups of people oppressing me, it was just a matter of time of life guiding me from experience to experience to experience to help me to realize that I've always had access to creation energy. I've always had access to all of the rights and all of the liberties that I would ever need in this lifetime. So the laws are honestly a moot point, right? So when it comes to marriage, let's say they roll back marriage. That would not impact my level of happiness, not one bit. It would not impact my emotional well-being. It would not impact my happiness. It would not impact my financial well-being. It would not impact my physical well-being. I've already decided it just won't. I'm sorry, it just will not. It won't. There's nothing that I won't be able to have regardless of what the economics say. And so that's why I vote in favor of the candidate who's going to prioritize the economy, because if it did come down to me wanting to reap.
It's actually hilarious listening to Trump supporters say they're voting for Trump because they want lower taxes, when in reality, Kamala Harris is the only candidate that actually wants to lower taxes for over 100 million American citizens and won't raise taxes for anybody making less than $400,000 per year. Whereas Trump is only significantly lowering taxes for the top 5% of wealthiest Americans. Trump supporters either don't have an actual understanding of Trump's tax plan, or they think that Trump is going to make them millionaires overnight, but either way, they should know that Trump actually only has concepts of a plan for how he's going to magically improve our economy, which basically just includes putting extremely high tariffs on imported goods, and that would only make life more expensive for you and your family. Remember, this is the same guy who inherited Barack Obama's economy, took credit for it, and then destroyed it during his first term. The only thing impressive about Trump's economy is how he was able to add over $9 trillion to our national debt while simultaneously losing over 3 million American jobs. If Trump somehow becomes president again, we would be his 7th bankruptcy. Okay, the reason why the election went the way it did is because voters' top issue wasn't immigration or democracy, it was the economy. So never for the life of me will I understand why people who wanted to improve our economy voted for Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. Trump has zero idea what he wants to do with our economy, and if you don't believe me, just take his word for it. He says he has concepts of a plan, which mainly consists of applying extreme tariffs of 20% or more onto imported goods, just to try and convince people that he's a genius businessman, even though those added costs won't be paid by other countries, but will likely be passed onto the American consumer. Not to mention, Trump wants to add a 60% tariff specifically on goods imported from China, which is absurd and sounds a lot like his failed trade war with China from his first term. That was highly inflationary as well. And economists have been sounding the alarm for weeks that inflation is actually cooling under the Biden-Harris administration, whereas Trump's economic plan could very likely put us in a recession by the middle of next year. So did you really vote for Trump because you thought he was best for the economy? Or were there other reasons you voted for him and you're just afraid to say those out loud in public?
I like the tax cuts that he's proposed for businesses that are already paying a lot in taxes. And I think he's a real candidate that is behind hardworking Americans and blue-collar workers.
I voted for Donald Trump today. And I voted for him because the last 4 years weren't really great with the border, with inflation, with foreign policy.
I didn't like paying $5 per gallon at one point. Still up 50%. Groceries are up. Rent is up. Pretty much everything's up. Wages are down. And then, Kamala Harris, when she was asked, what would you do differently? She said, nothing.
I think he's going to straighten out the economy, the inflation, straighten out the border, almost everything. I don't think she's qualified. There's a lot of things about Trump I don't like the way but I like his policies.
What brought you out to vote for former President Trump here today?
The economy, more than anything. I think it's going to be pretty close in this county.
Are you nervous about the former president's chances out here today?
A little.
Why is that?
I'm pretty confident that from what I see except in the city. So that's where most of the votes are.
He was able to go on many, many interviews and put himself up front without a script. He was thinking off the top of his head with every single interview he had. I get a sense of strength in him. He's very keep America together.
Now, voters across 3 states pivotal to the presidential election cite the economy and immigration as their reasons for voting for Donald Trump. NPR stations in 3 states that were pivotal to the election sent reporters out to find people and ask them what really motivated them to vote the way they did. And I want to start with Wisconsin. Now, this one from Milwaukee said, I'm from a largely Latino neighborhood. Now, Brenda sits in her black pickup truck with a red MAGA hat on the dashboard and Trump Vans decor on the back window. The first-time voter who was born in Mexico gently asks her 2 children to be quieter. Then she explains she voted for Donald Trump because she finds the cost of living too high. She says that the food is very expensive. Everything is very expensive. I don't like it. She also mentions, quote, too many bad people coming across the border to the U.S. She works in Milwaukee as a machinist. Says she pays taxes while she feels undocumented immigrants get too much help from the government. Her request for Trump in the months ahead: bring down prices and reduce illegal immigration. The border, stay out, the bad people. Now, over the next row of cars, Brian Ortiz is getting out of his SUV. On this late afternoon, he's still wearing fluorescent green clothes from his construction job. Ortiz says he voted for Trump because he says Democrats mishandled the economy. He says one of the first ways Trump should fix that is to increase U.S. oil production. That's going to make transporting goods from one place to another way cheaper. Ortiz, born and raised in Puerto Rico, says he wasn't upset by a comedian's description of his birthplace at a Trump rally as a, quote, floating island of garbage. For him, he says Trump's promise to reduce illegal immigration would help him find work. I lost a lot of jobs just because they wanted to hire someone that was willing to take way lower pay than normal. Now, despite the backing for Trump in this one, Milwaukee parking lot, about 77% of voters in the city backed Vice President Harris. But that was less than President Biden's support for years ago, and part of why analysts say Trump was able to carry Wisconsin. Now, Trump won the state of 117,000 more votes than Vice President Harris. That's 10 times more than President Biden's margin of victory in 2020. Now, voters around Georgia say that they chose Trump because they hope to see change. I know when we lived during Trump's presidency, everything was much lower. Groceries were lower, gas was lower, so I'm just hoping to see that come down. Now, this one said that she's hoping Trump brings down the cost of living. Inflation has cooled in recent months, but some voters are still nostalgic for lower prices, especially grocery prices during the Trump era. Trump has promised to curb inflation in part by bringing down energy costs. Making sure we try to have as much jobs as we can here in the country and try and keep everybody gainfully employed. Now, Brown is another Trump supporter who says that he would have preferred a different Republican to Trump, but ultimately chose him. Now, Brown said he wanted a shake-up in Washington. He also mentioned the cost of living and groceries. It's not because I like his personality, that's for sure. I think he's the one to take care of the economy, the oil issues, and the border issues. U.S.-Mexico border security was top of mind for many Trump voters in Georgia. Some like Harden Cromer say it hits close to home after college student Laken Riley was allegedly unalived by an undocumented migrant in Athens, Georgia earlier this year. Just seeing how our country is right now, it's a scary place for us, and I just want us to be safe. I believe that we need a change and we have to put Americans first. For some Trump voters like Cromer, safety and migration seem linked, and Trump has promised mass deportations, but research has shown undocumented migrants are not more likely to commit violent crimes than U.S. citizens. Now, from what we've heard from a lot of Trump supporters, I feel for a lot of Trump supporters, the decision to vote for him was largely driven by two key issues: the cost of living and immigration. Many of these supporters feel that Trump is the best person to address their economic concerns, particularly when it comes to the rising cost of groceries and other everyday essentials. Now, on the issue of immigration, some Trump supporters believe that his tough stance, including mass deportations, will ultimately benefit them by creating job opportunities. The thinking goes that with fewer immigrants in the country, American workers have a better chance of securing jobs that were previously taken by immigrants who were willing to work for lower wages. It's worth noting that these views are not universally held among Trump supporters, and that many people who voted for him did so for different reasons. However, for some supporters, these two issues were key factors in their decision to back Trump. Like most of them that we've heard, that I've shared, a lot of people are talking about these two key factors. And it's also interesting to observe how deeply divided Americans are on these issues, with many people on both sides of the political aisle holding strongly opposing views. Now, according to a recent poll, Republicans and Democrats have fundamentally different perspectives on what motivates voters on the other side. Now, looking at the reasons why people voted for Trump and how things are going right now, it's clear that reality is not living up to expectations. Many Trump supporters were hoping for more jobs and lower grocery prices, but the opposite seems to be happening. Companies are already cutting jobs and Christmas bonuses are being scrapped due to Trump's tariffs. Now, the irony is that Trump's policies, such as imposing tariffs on imported goods, are likely to drive up prices rather than bring them down. Now, this means that the very people who voted for Trump hoping for economic relief may end up feeling the pinch instead. It's also worth noting that the narrative that Trump supporters are primarily motivated by economic anxiety is not entirely accurate, because research has shown that racial resentment and cultural identity play a much bigger role in driving support for Trump. It seems that Trump supporters may be in for a rude awakening. The policies they were promised may not deliver the benefits they were expecting, and the consequences of those policies may end up hurting the very people who voted for them. We have finally come to the end of the video, but what do you, my viewers, have to say? Share your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for always watching, and see you in my next video as we bring you another interesting video.